out west, and that is Draymond Green. He will miss tonight's Game 3 against the Kings. You know already about what happened. Suspended for the stomp on the chest of Sabonis the other night. In case you missed it, here was our Michael Wilbon on the NBA's decision yesterday.
Tony, to me, the stomp, which got him ejected, and the officials handled that accurately to me. The other stuff merits a suspension. Yes, Draymond can do what he wants, and yes, there are consequences. And the National Basketball Association is not beholden to just do whatever it is Draymond Green wants to do without saying, no, we're not going to condone that in these playoffs on national stage. No, sit down. You've done this a million times before. We're not having it.
That was just a little taste of some of the reaction here yesterday. We spent 2 hours on this story yesterday morning here on this show, and then Stephen A. and Michael Wilbon and you guys and everybody else weighing in throughout the day, and we'll give you little tastes of what people were saying. But Wendy and Tim Legler, I've not heard from on all this yet. So, Legs, let's get your reaction first to what we saw with Draymond, the league's decision, and overall where it leaves us with that series.
Wasn't surprised at all that the suspension came. I think the main reason is because it's a bad visual. There's no way around it. It's a bad visual, and to me, Greeny, completely avoidable. Like, you're not going to sell me on the idea that that's the only motion his leg could have taken in that situation. I understand Sabonis grabbed his leg first, right? I get that. You could shake out of that, avoid stepping on him, and get up the floor. Or how about this notion, in a league that rewards salesmanship, sell it. Fall to the ground as Sabonis is grabbing your leg, and you're most likely going to get a flagrant on Sabonis. But to shake free and then step on his chest, the visual behind it, and the history, which Joe Dumars alluded to, and some of the other issues Draymond has had in the postseason that has cost him and cost his team, it all added up to a suspension. I was not surprised by it. Look, I played in the 90s. If I was making the decision in the league office, I probably wouldn't have suspended him. But I understand why the league did it. And the worst part is Draymond Green could have avoided that. He did not have to take that action on Sabonis, and he actually could have sold it in a different way to hurt the Kings.
Now, you heard him mention Joe Dumars. For those who may not know why he is, Joe Dumars now works in the league office and was the one charged with making this decision, and he was very out front on this yesterday. Whether you agree or disagree, you respect Dumars, who was an unbelievably great player back in the day. He was live on NBA Today yesterday, a really good interview that he did yesterday. And there is more to the Joe Dumars story, Wendy. I think you should fill in some blanks here for a lot of people who may not know.
Yeah, as you said, Greeny, this is his first year in the job, and this is a highly personal decision. Number one, he worked for the Kings for the last several years as a consultant. A year ago, he was an employee of the Sacramento Kings. Number two, he's been very close to Draymond Green for a decade. Draymond has described Joe Dumars as a father figure to him, growing up in Michigan, where Joe Dumars was obviously a towering figure in basketball. So this sort of things happen in the NBA a lot. If you're going to be the head of operations for the NBA, you're going to have connections all over the place. That's not that unheard of. What I would tell you, the league's reaction yesterday was surprise. Surprise for two reasons. One, generally, and I want to underline the word generally the league has been softer on discipline with players in the Adam Silver era. And so whenever you see an opportunity for the league to either go hard or soft, almost always they've gone soft. The second thing is that Joe very clearly came out and said that past behavior figured into this decision. And the league was like, well, when did that become a precedent? Just go back 10 days. 10 days, Greeny, the Dallas Mavericks were fined for admitting that they were tanking. That was a multiple-time offense that had happened in an organization that has had multiple offenses for other things, and they got a relatively light fine because that's what kind of happens. Everybody kind of goes soft on discipline in the NBA right now. So to take this stand at this time with this consequences, with this methodology, surprised the league.
What did you think of it, Jay?
First off, I just find it ironic that a member of the Bad Boys is determining what is unsportsmanlike and what isn't. I just stated that for the record. But when you actually listen to his reasoning, right, he said number one was the act. Number two was conduct detrimental to the league afterwards. What about him talking trash to the fan base was detrimental to the league? Like, that's a legit question that I have.
Is it potentially inciting a situation? It didn't, of course.
It did not.
Nothing happened. But could it? Could a player getting into it in the way he does with the fans, in the way as directly as they are there, could there be concern that that could lead to something that escalates? That could
Isn't
be
that why
really
you have
ugly?
security at the games?
It is
and
why.
doesn't trash talking
But-
as a former player always exist between players in the crowd? I'm not condoning it.
Right.
I'm just trying to look at it
to play
objectively.
devil's advocate to what you're saying, because I'm kind of on your side on that, but I can understand where one might say that goes well beyond the usual trash talking that you see between a fan who might be sitting right by the court and a player.
Okay, and then as it relates to the third point around the conduct, that is, the past behaviors, like, when do you get a chance? Like, is that just something that sticks with Draymond for his entire career? So, like, is there no room for error on Draymond? Because if you actually look at the video again, slow-mo wise, and I hear what Legs was talking about, DeMontis is actually holding onto his foot so hard that he lifts him off the ground.
Yeah.
He literally lifts him off the ground. If you watch it in slow-mo, he lifts him off the ground. That's not the angle. When you see the reverse angle, he gets lifted off the ground. Look, off the ground.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel on the stomp, but it just feels like the ejection should have been the end of the scenario.
Well, so Legs' point, and I think what you're saying, and I'm saying too, Sabonis unquestionably started this, and if Draymond doesn't respond in kind, Sabonis may very well have gotten a flagrant, and I think would richly have deserved it. But what Woj told us the league said yesterday was that he escalated the act. It's like, if I shove you and you punch me, I shouldn't have shoved you, but it doesn't justify you punching me. You escalated the act. Draymond maybe have fallen for the bait, right? I mean, this might be the Mike Brown, who knows Draymond better than anybody, was an assistant coach in Golden State for a long time. They may have goaded Draymond into this, and he fell for it. The Lakers had a chance to take a commanding 2-0 series lead on the road last night against the Grizzlies. No John Morant on the floor. We picked this up in the second quarter. Anthony Davis, this is one of his 5 blocks as he flies through the air and gets John Conchar. And now it goes back the other way, and LeBron's going to lay it up and good. But watch this. Chris Canty, Conchar says, anything you can do, I can do bigger.
AD, you're a 7-footer. That guy's 6'5". You can't let him block you when you're trying to dunk the basketball.
He is 6'5", and he gets Anthony Davis there. What a moment for the Grizzlies. He were fired up. And then it's Jaren Jackson Jr., Defensive Player of the Year, and he can knock down threes. Grizz by 15 at the half. Third quarter, the surprise hero of the night was Xavier Tillman. Came out of nowhere, scored 22. Grizzlies up 20. Now in the third. This is where it got interesting between LeBron and Dillon Brooks. Look at the trash-talking Chris Canty.
You love how chippy it gets.
Sorry, Chris Carter would have liked the trash-talking too. LeBron up 28. Here's more. Brooks knocking it down, and look at him giving the stare to LeBron.
Yeah. You love that kind of stuff right there. That's playoff basketball.
LeBron would then lay one up here. It's a 6-point game. Minute and a half to go now. Grizzlies up by 8, and who's going to hit the big shot? It's going to be Brooks. He would score 12. He would have a lot to say, and the series is all square.
You and LeBron have that exchange. There are people out there that say maybe you shouldn't do that with one of the better players in the game. What were you thinking?
I don't care. He's old. You know what I mean? I was waiting for that. I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
All right, so that's LeBron James he's talking about. Nothing to see here. So again, Canty with us, and Brian Windhorst and Tim Legler getting up with us. And unless you should be wondering, does Dillon Brooks seem kind of like a WWE villain? Just look at him again, for crying out loud, right? Are you telling me that guy isn't ready to jump into the ring with Ric Flair right this minute?
Let me tell you something, Mean Gene.
That's exactly right.
I mean, I feel like that's what Dillon Brooks is about to bust out with those stunner shades.
And so, I mean, Legs, what do we say? He says, I'm poking the bear. He's poking LeBron James after a big win last night for Memphis.
Yeah, he is. And look, this reminds me a lot of Lance Stevenson back when he was in Indiana blowing in LeBron's ear, right? Dillon Brooks is now the modern day version of that. The interesting thing about Dillon Brooks is he talks about poking the bear, and guys like Dillon Brooks that approach it the way he does, they're the type of guy that will poke the bear, get their arm mauled off, and then poke him with the other arm because they don't care. They've got short-term memory. So even if LeBron shows up in Game 3 and drops 45, Dillon Brooks will have the same exact stance after the game. I think it's great because it makes the series more interesting, the matchup more interesting. He's very important to what Memphis does. He's a major part of this series.
I just find it ironic that you call a guy old that is still capable of being the best player on the floor on any given night. That makes me laugh a little bit.
Me too. And look, I like it too. A little bit of this, the agitator in him and all that kind of stuff, that's a tale as old as time, and I like it. Wendy, you've been seeing this with LeBron even longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for 15, 17 years with various opponents in the playoffs. And it's not bad strategy because at times LeBron has gotten a little flummoxed, but it's not going to work this time. And Dillon Brooks is doing this with a reason. He's doing it to get attention, yes, of course, but he's laying a trap for the Lakers. When he's challenging LeBron to go try to get 40 points to shut him up, what he's trying to do is to get them to go away from Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis is the Lakers' big advantage in this series. And if LeBron were to respond to this by trying to make some point on Saturday night in crypto, that would not behoove the Lakers. The other thing that he said that wasn't on video here is that he wishes, Dillon Brooks said he wishes he could face Miami or Cleveland LeBron, sort of putting him down. But he's right about that. Like, this is not Miami or Cleveland LeBron. This is a different LeBron. Now, he's played well in this series, and he played well last night. But this is, for the Lakers to win, it's got to be Anthony Davis' series. LeBron knows that. Dillon Brooks knows that. And they're both acting in the same way with different styles.
And that's why I wanted to get Canty into this conversation as well, because Canty, you love the Lakers and you follow this thing closely. And your thoughts on the Anthony Davis of it all. I saw you almost jump out of your seat. That's where this first jumped into my head. When Conchar blocks that shot on Anthony Davis, and again, AD only had 13 points last night with a chance to really put a stranglehold on the series. The lack of aggressiveness on his part and their part, that moment in particular, I know rubbed you the wrong way.
Yeah, it's disappointing. And the Lakers are the best version of themselves, especially in the half-court offense when AD gets going early and often. In that first quarter, he was 1 of 6 from the field. Not exactly the recipe for success if you're the Lakers, but it ain't just all on AD. The others have got to step up too. I mean, Austin Reeves was a no-show. The guys off the bench outside of Rui Hachimura didn't do anything. And can somebody put a APB out for D'Angelo Russell? Because the guy is 9 of 28 from the field in this series. Those guys are going to have to step up and support the 38-year-old superstar LeBron James if the Lakers are going to win this series. But gee, as a Lakers fan, I am so disappointed that they did not take advantage of the opportunity in front of them.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.